Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking all types of baseball and a little bit of Bulls basketball, and maybe throwing some other random things here and there. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You could see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. So make sure you head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you, the weather is really nice, so that's a plus. So I'm enjoying that a lot.
That is a plus.
You can't ask for nicer, honestly.
No, it was like, 80 degrees today?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. It was bright and sunny, no clouds, no rain, no gloominess, just picture perfect. You couldn't have asked for better, and you need it, especially when your team sucks and you're not getting any enjoyment out of it anymore. And you say, all right, I'm going to enjoy this weather instead. It really does help.
Yeah, it's at least if you're at the ballpark, you're enjoying a nice game or a nice day.
Oh, sure.
So should we start baseball? Should we start basketball? Where you want to start?
Yeah, we can start baseball, then go into basketball and other things.
All right. Go ahead, kick us off here.
Okay, so let's not sugarcoat this. The Cubs are in a spiral right now, and this is getting uglier and uglier by the day and more frustrating by the day. You know, we started off really good in April, and then you lost a lot of close games in late April, early May, where all you really needed was a hit here, a hit there, and those would have turned into wins. Now you're getting either A, blown out, or B, you're blowing a big lead. And I think I could speak for a lot of Cubs fans when I say this, that loss against Houston on Thursday or Wednesday, whatever that was, that series finale.
Was that the Keegan Thompson game?
Yeah. The up 6-1 game and then just completely crumble. And that was a game where, you know how you have those death by 1,000 paper cuts losses? That wasn't that. That was just a swift knockout kick to the groin. Just the Astros, in the blink of an eye, just crushed your dreams.
Yeah, you were like, okay, we're coming out of this series. We're getting the win here. And it was just an absolute disaster. And I was listening to the game, and then I turned it off right at the end. I was coming inside, and I was like, oh, they got this one wrapped up.
Blah.
I mean, just ridiculous.
And it's a shame. It's a shame because Keegan Thompson, who was a real weapon out of the bullpen after he moved there last year, it has not worked this year. A lot of walks, a lot of base runners, and he was getting kind of lucky early on, and now that luck has kind of run out. And now he's in AAA. And, you know, maybe he hopefully finds out things down there. But Sean, here's what's getting to me right now. Just beyond that loss, just beyond that game. Everything that we have demanded on Twitter, they DFA'd Eric Hosmer. They brought up Matt Mervis. They brought up Christopher Morel. And Morel's been awesome. We'll talk about him later. And a bunch of other things. It's not getting any better. There's nothing more you can do. when you see this many roster moves and this kind of shuffling, this is a bad sign. It means things aren't working and you're desperate to try to find a solution. And right now, the only solution
Is
is
a
going
petting
to be
zoo.
okay. I mean, plenty of room in Gallagher Way for that, right?
Is wear pajamas to the park game day.
Hey, he hasn't been here in several years. I hate to break it to you.
I know. I just that was the go-to when they were struggling. And yeah, you're right. On paper, this team should be a whole lot better. I mean, you look, Horner and Swanson doing well, Hap doing well. Suzuki's been playing really well as of late. Morel is playing well. Mancini's playing pretty well. Okay, I mean, compared to what we thought. It's the starting pitching, the front end. It's been, you've got a bunch of players that are pitching really well. The bullpen has been a disaster, and
the depth, the depth is bad. The bullpen is bad, and I mean, Stroman and Steele have been great, and they both had a clunker last week with Stroman against the Twins, and Steele against the Astros. Okay, that's going to happen. They were both pitching great. They were due for a clunker. That's not a big deal. Both of them came back in this Phillies series and, rebounded. Stroman rebounded and Steele rebounded. That's not the issue. But look beyond those two. Jameson Tyone, boy, this has been disastrous so far. I mean, really bad. I mean, this is Edwin Jackson levels bad.
Yeah, it's not good.
And I hope he fights his way out of it because I think he's got solid stuff. It's just not...
I mean, you Darvish had a bad start to his Cubs career.
He did, and so did many other free agent pitchers, but there's one game you could point to where you said, okay, Tyone was pretty solid. That was the game in Los Angeles. That was a while ago. And I mean, there was some peripheral stuff early on where you're like, okay, he got a little shitty luck there. He's going to be fine. But he wasn't even competitive against the Phillies on Saturday.
No, not even a little bit.
I mean, 6 runs in the first inning. That Schwarber home run hasn't even landed yet. That grand slam, it's still in orbit right now. I mean, that was just bad. And then Wisniewski, who he had all the confidence in the world, he's in AAA right now.
It's I don't know where you go from here.
I mean, really, you kind of have to right the ship with what you have. That's kind of the reality of it. And listen, I know you said earlier they should be way better. I'm starting to question, is this just really who they are? Are we just in a bad stretch? Because I don't think they're this bad, but I don't think they're as good as they were early on.
They should be better. I mean, you look at the individual stats and you're like, the composite is not the sum of the parts. There are teams where you're like, they're playing over their heads. Everybody's just contributing and timely hitting. And this team, no, not so much. And today is, perfect amalgam of what's going on. You have an amazing start by Steele, and you can't give him any run support. Nones.
And again, though, and you're right, but look at the lineup today. Wasn't Mike Tauchman batting 5th? Didn't you need Miles Mastrobuoni in there? That's your lineup. Half your lineup is 4A guys.
Yeah, you can't have hot garbage doing that. And I want to be careful by blaming the manager for everything.
Yeah.
But at some point, you got to start going, David Ross, what the hell are you doing?
There are a number of things where I'm starting to question now, and really the challenge is finding the balance. I mean, listen, there's been a lot of bullpen decisions that I think have gotten him in hot water and have lost some games. Personally, I think the Astros loss that 6-1 blown lead, I don't think that was on Ross. I think that you brought in the guys in what was a pretty reasonable fashion, and they just didn't get the job done. That I don't blame as much on Ross, but today he was going heavy lefty against Tyon Walker, who had a 6+ ERA and looked like Cy Young today. But that means putting in 4A guys in there. I mean, at some point, do we kind of go past the old lefty righty thing and just say, hey, these guys are more likely to hit because they can actually hit? I'm just asking out loud here.
I think you've got to try something. What you're doing is not working. And all I'm saying is hindsight's 2020, but wouldn't it have been nice to have Andrew Chafin in this bullpen?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the more frustrating things this year. And, unfortunately, this is tough because bullpens are so fickle. And I gave the Cubs every benefit of the doubt when they assembled their bullpen because, look, they've had a great track record in the past several years of assembling these things. They went out and found David Robertson, who was once a big name closer, but hasn't been a big name reliever in years. He came in and did really well. They found Michael Givens. They found Chris Martin. They found Ryan Tepera. They found Andrew Chafin a few years ago. They were able to make the ex-Brewer Jeremy Jeffress work a few years ago. Jesse Chavez, yes. They were able to make all these things work. And when they brought in Brad Boxberger and Michael Fulmer, it made sense to me. I'm like, okay, these are two guys who've had good years in recent years, especially last year. And they seem to know where to find these veteran guys and work. And unfortunately, they just haven't worked. And I don't know if I could be too critical of Jed and co on that. Like it made sense to me. It just straight didn't work. With that said, I'm really hoping that these next slew of arms that could be coming up from the system in this pen could be successful because these guys can actually throw in the upper 90s close to double digits. We have relied way too long on too many guys who top out at 92, 93. You can't do that anymore. For an entire bullpen, you can't have potential closers throwing 92.
Yeah, this isn't 1974.
Right. I mean, really, that's just the reality.
Yeah, and I'm not going to shit on Jed for the bullpen roster, although I did say in the spring training that I wish they would add another arm, that I didn't feel was comfortable with this bullpen. I just didn't expect it to be this bad.
I wish they would have gone after Kenley Jansen. He would have been fairly affordable.
There was a number of moves they could have made, and they didn't. And now you got to ride with it. Right.
And the bullpen is one frustrating thing. That's a situation where I'm frustrated as hell, but I'm like, you know what? It made sense to me at the time, the way they put some of it together, and it's just not working. And hopefully there's going to be guys coming in that's going to make a difference. So it's frustrating, but I'm not as mad at them for that. I'm more upset about having to put out lineups with 4A guys and wash-ups out there. That's what I'm more pissed off about. And listen, I'm not mad at Miles Mastrobuoni or Mike Talkman. They're put in a situation and they're doing their best. They're professionals. They've carried it professionally. They're doing their best. But if you're going to tell me you're trying to compete for a playoff spot and you're putting out 4A journeymen out there because that's all you have, come on. That really grinds my gears.
The frustrating part is they are like, you can have a good record in one-run games. You can have a bad record. Then you can have the Cubs record.
What's it, 2-14 or something like that?
It's unbelievably bad record in one-run games.
Yeah.
If they could just get that to 500 in one-run games, suddenly they're actually, the record's pretty darn good. they've got to figure out how to win these one-run games, and this is part of where the lack of power comes from.
Right.
Where it comes from, where it's a
Right.
detriment.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You can't have one swing of the bat, make up for things, correct, wrongs in the rest of the game. You have to put things together. You have to put together a couple of players having consecutive good at bats, and it's not working. And I don't know how you generate power. You can say, oh, I hope now that the weather's warming up that balls will start flying out. And in some regards, that's true, because those bad winds won't be blowing in anymore. They'll be start to blow out or swirl a little bit. But you can't rely on the weather to fix your lack of power.
No, you can't. And one source of power we'd hoped we have is struggling pretty badly. And it's not, yeah, and that's not me waving the white towel or white flag, regarding that. He's struggling. I mean, that's the reality of it. I think he's pressing a little bit now because he's a little frustrated.
Yeah,
so
at least he's above the Mendoza line now. But yeah,
I mean, we've seen some spurts, but overall, it's just there's been some struggles.
Absolutely, there has been, and it's a balancing act. You put him back down in the minors, and he's going to clobber everything. You move him up, and he's struggling.
Right.
And you don't want him to lose that confidence. You don't want him to have self-doubts. You need him to go out there and be professional. And it's a lot to ask from a young player to come to have no success and be even keeled about it and keep working. That's a tough ask.
Especially when you're playing at a premier position. Because that's kind of the scary thing. And again, I'm not saying it's not going to work out, but let's say worst case scenario, he doesn't work out. Then what? What do you have at first base in the future?
Somebody that's playing first base that's not a first baseman.
Who is that? Who in this farm system?
Oh, in the farm system? I don't know.
Who do you have?
I mean, Patrick Wisdom probably plays first base. I mean, I'm not saying it's a good solution. I'm just saying you're converting somebody.
You need to have a good first baseman to be a contender. You need a productive first baseman. That's when's the last time you saw a World Series team win without a productive first baseman? Can't think of it. Yeah. And that unfortunately puts a lot of pressure on Mervis. This position has been a black hole.
No matter what, they were not going to win the World Series this year anyway.
No.
So, but he's got to figure it out. And, in the past week, he's looked a little better. But
this might just require patience.
I'm thinking it might. And you've got to look at positives. He didn't strike out the last two games. Positive.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe start seeing the ball a little better. Laying off some outside pitches. Make them work the strike zone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are, but do you let him keep struggling in the majors, or do you send him down to the minors with a key focus of, hey, work the counts, watch, only swing at pitches in the strike zone, work on your eye. Like, are those so that when you come back up, you've sort of worked through those, or do you just letting them work at the major league level and fingers crossed he figures it out?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Christopher Morel struggled a lot last year, and figured it out. Small sample size, but he looks like he's figured it out. I have confidence in Mervis. You can't hit the ball that well in the minors and then not be able to hit in the majors at any, like, this is just going to be a learning curve. But
And that's what I'm hoping too.
But we were really counting on him at least having more power while he was struggling.
Right. Because, I mean, right now, your main source of power is really Morel. And, you had Suzuki have that little power spurt in Houston because, Cody Bellinger's been out. So he hasn't been able to hit power for you. And that's really all you're getting in terms of power. You're getting a lot from Morel, but one player can't carry that.
No.
And, that's an issue. And it's just, it's too bad that here we are Sunday night and we're down. The Cardinals have passed us officially. The team that got off to the worst start in the National League. And this is why I say over and over, you can't draw conclusions, especially with the Cardinals in April. Everyone who was saying, haha, Cardinals, look at them. What did I keep saying? Just wait, just wait, just wait. And now they've passed us.
Yeah, and they'll catch the Pirates soon enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
now,
then soon the Brewers.
Now nobody's running away with this division. But you're now in a position where you have 3 teams ahead of you. And, the Pirates, yeah, I mean, they might keep sinking a little bit, but the Brewers I don't think they're great, but they're going to be good enough to be around in it. And then, the Cardinals are the favorites, and I don't think they're going to be stopping anytime soon.
And to be fair, the Reds are only 1 game behind you if you're the Cubs.
Yeah, I know. And the Reds just got swept this weekend. And you're only a game ahead of them. There's another team that could pass the Cubs record. They had a 10-game losing streak. They were off to a horrible start. They also play in the same city. In a week, they could be better than you. And that's not a knock on them. I'm just saying you were 5 games above 500 at one point. And now we're what? 6 under? 5 under, 6 under, whatever it is?
6 under.
Yeah.
3-7 in our last 10.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bad. It's been bad. And there's a long way to go. Some guys will get hot. You'll get a few breaks. You'll win a few games. Right now, where I sit right here, right now, is I cannot say that I could see this team winning any more than 80 games. And I think 80 games might be generous. Maybe this is an overreaction just on this bad stretch, but 80 games feels like best case scenario right now. Things can change. I get that. I'm not ruling that out. But just where we are right now, that's kind of how I feel.
I mean, honestly, going into the season, I felt 500 would be a good season for them. And I agree. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to hit that. But at some point,
you had the opportunity, though, to be better.
You did.
You had, and every season matters.
I just don't know what happens. It's like this team has a curse over it since 2016, where even if you have a good lineup, guys just don't play their best. And I don't know what that is, what causes that. And you have guys where, all right, was this a power, like a masher lineup? No, but you had a bunch of different guys that had 15 to 25 home run power, and none of them are displaying it. It's like a power vortex. Like, how does that happen? Like, how does everyone just go, oh, I lost all my power?
Every single one of our souls was sucked out and given to the devil on November 2nd, 2016.
And while I will still say it's worth it, it's frustrating to live with that.
Yeah, considering we thought that core was going to do a hell lot more.
And for the most part, that core is terrible with other teams too.
Well, have you seen Anthony Rizzo?
He's the exception.
Chris Bryant's doing well too. It's just that he gets hurt a lot.
And Javi Baez is an albatross.
He's been pretty good lately. He got benched and he's been on a tear.
I haven't seen him since early on, but I mean,
he's been on a tear. But listen. I'm not going to play revision, and I'm not going to back up on what I said about selling the core. I'm not going to suddenly do that. I'm not in the mood to do that. I truly believe that Anthony Rizzo is playing the best where he is because he fits in with that team. You play on a team with Aaron Judge, and when he's healthy, Giancarlo Stanton. You know, when you're in a New York Yankee lineup like that, players like him are going to get max production. And that's what we're seeing. I think he'd be good here still, but I don't think he'd be as good as he is in a Yankee uniform. He just fits in there better. Would I take him back? You darn right I would, but I'm just saying. I don't want to play the whole revisionist history. I don't want to go back on that again.
Oh, no, I don't either. I'm not suggesting that we should have done anything different. I was all for what they did. I'm just saying is I was excited about the collective power of this team. I was like, okay, you have a bunch of guys that can hit a little bit of power, and nobody is. And it's just frustrating.
It is. And I really just, I don't want to be sitting on Memorial Day weekend thinking it's another lost season. And if I said this on Twitter, and I'll say it again, if this team was competitive until the end and they just missed out because they didn't quite have enough talent, but you saw the progress, you saw the good things, I think we say that's a win, right? Like, we're like, okay, we'll build on that, right?
Yeah.
But my fear where this is going, and I hope it doesn't come true, is that we're going to be sitting in June, we're going to be 10 games back, and it's going to be a lost cause. That there's not even going to be that chance for us to play meaningful baseball. It's just going to be another summer of, hey, look at that. They went 35-33 in the second half. What they finished with, 76 wins, but hey, a good second half again. It gets old. Because even in 2021, when you had Frank Schwindel and, a bunch of just random guys you never heard of just filling in after the sell-off. Hey, they played good in September. Okay, that's cool. Last year, hey, they played good in August, September. Okay, maybe we can build on that. If we win 80, 81 games and we have that scenario, okay, great. But if it's the same thing where we're finishing with 75 wins again, and you're 20 games back and you're winning things when you don't even have a chance, that I don't think is acceptable for us.
I just don't know what the fix is. If you say add a bat, where do you go to add it?
In terms of roster moves, I don't think there is one.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the scary part. It's not like, oh, you know what? As we get closer to trade deadline, we can trade for a closer. Or, hey, we need a pop in the corner outfield. You have your roster as it is. And I don't know where you fix this.
It's going to be, your best chances are going to be some of these arms that are hopefully going to come up soon, because you are going to get Cody Hoyer back. You might see Ben Brown. You might see Jordan Wicks. if you see some of those guys, that might help with a few things. But in terms of offense, like Pico Armstrong isn't ready.
No. Owen Casey, probably not ready.
Kevin Alcantara, no. Christian Hernandez, no.
Brandon Davis, no.
No, I think that's a lost cause.
I think he's going to get dangled as trade bait. I don't know who's going to want him, but I think that's what it's.
I hate it because I'm a big fan of the guy, but I mean, he fell out of the top 100. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't. That's bad.
And unfortunately, I had this feeling for a while now. And I didn't want it to come true. And I don't know if maybe there's an organization out there that would take him and maybe find something and fix it. I don't know if we can put our money on him being anything with the Cubs.
I don't think so. I really wanted to believe, and just hasn't come back from injuries.
Yeah,
which sucks because honestly, before the injuries, I think we expected him to be on this roster opening day.
Oh yeah, he could have shown up last year. I mean, the hope was last year he would have made his debut. It's not his talent, it's the injuries. They can be so debilitating.
Because he is just a completely different player.
Yeah, and those back injuries are no joke. It sucks for him. I hate it for him. It's not out of his will or his talent or anything like that. It is just really unfortunate.
I don't know if there's a way to fix him. I don't know if it's a change of scenery, but just he's just really struggling.
Yeah, it stinks to see.
But this team as a whole, I like your positivity about young arms coming up or arms coming back, but I mean, is it often that young arms come up from the minors and turn a team around?
It can only do so much.
Yeah, I don't know if how realistic that is. I think this team is one that needs to sit down and really take a deep look at themselves and come back out recentered, refocused, and play to their capabilities. You've got certain guys that are just playing out of their asses, but as a whole, this team is just not the sum of its parts.
Right.
I'm just looking at Brandon Davis. He is batting 189 with a 310 on base. That's a nice bump from his batting average. 287 slugging, 597 OPS. In 2021, he had an 869 OPS. It's a precipitous drop. I don't know if you send him back down to AA.
Yeah, I don't know really what the solution is there.
Ugh. I don't know. Who do the Cubs have on deck next?
The Mets, who are red hot right now.
Oh, that Mets team is on fire. On fire.
And that's the other thing, too, is we haven't gotten a break outside that National Series, which we failed in. But look at the schedule. Because I think we have the Rays after that then.
Let's see.
Like we just played the
No,
defending champs.
Get the
We
Reds.
just played.
The Reds after.
Oh, okay. So we do have a Reds in there. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we just played the back-to-back pennant winners.
So I mean, the thing is you didn't play well against the Reds either. So, so yeah, you got the Mets, then the Reds, then the Rays, then the Padres again. Yeah, so
When do we play the AL? When do we play the Royals and the Tigers and the Cleveland Guardians? Because those teams suck.
Cleveland on June 30th.
Hmm.
Um,
Can we play the A's again?
We get Washington again in the middle of July.
Cool.
We get the White Sox at the end of July. And
I don't think they're going to be bad by then.
We'll see. But we get 2-game series against the White Sox sandwiched between the bread on that sandwich is 4 games sets against St. Louis. So 4 games home against St. Louis, then go down to White Sox for 2 games, then go to St. Louis for 4 games.
Oh, isn't that the London series?
I don't know. Doesn't say. I'm just looking at the MLB schedule. It just says at St. Louis. God, when does the schedule get easy?
It doesn't.
Oh, in middle of August, we get Kansas City.
Ah, perfect. Perfect.
Wait, so here we go. This might come at the little too late. So August, 3-game set versus Kansas City, with the last game being Ron Santo bobblehead day. Then 3 in Detroit, then 4 at Pittsburgh. And I think Pittsburgh by then will figure out that they're the Pirates. So you get a nice 10-game stretch there. But then you got it's sandwiched between the White Sox and the Brewers. Then you get a 4-game set against Cincy. The schedule sucks. Sucks. On the other side of town, though, the White Sox are winning some games. Granted, they are in a really easy part of their schedule, so I'm not going to have belief yet. But they are playing some better baseball.
Yeah, and here's the thing is I'm going to repeat what I've said before. If you beat your awful division, you're going to get a chance because this division is awful. And they're only, 6.5 back now? I don't want to say only, but again, considering they started out where they were to only be 6.5 back, and frankly, I don't think the Twins are that good.
No, but the Twins, beat them in a series. The Reds have beat them in a series. I mean, when was the last time the White Sox won a series? Let's see. Other than this Kansas City series. Oh, they've been the Cleveland. Sorry, 2 back-to-back. But they lost the series against Houston. Before that, they lost 3 of 4 against Kansas City. They lost against. Oh, they won the Twins. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They lost the first series against the Twins, if that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So their season series against the Twins, I think, is even 3-3.
but they've got a stretch here where they've got 7 straight games on the road against their division opponents. That's gonna be huge in this division, and it's against
I think they
Cleveland
can
and
win
Detroit.
those.
I mean, you need to win the series against Cleveland and at least split with Detroit, at least.
Those teams suck.
Those teams do suck, but you got to take advantage. Like you
Yeah,
didn't.
you do. You do.
I mean, you took advantage of Kansas City this time, but you really shit the bed against them early this month when you lost 3 of 4. That was a bad stretch. You've got to pad some wins here, because after that you've got a tough month of June with the Yankees and the Dodgers and Seattle. So you've got to start winning these games to get ahead.
Yeah, you do. You got to. I mean, you've taken advantage so far, over these past 2 series. You got to keep it going. I don't know if it's just a stretch. I don't know, but I feel like they've been playing more like the team they were supposed to be. And I'm not saying it's without fault, but starting pitching's been better. The bullpen has been really. You see what Joe Kelly's doing now?
Yeah, he figured it out. I wasn't one of those people who's like shitting on Joe Kelly. I think last year he was injured. And,
He was. Yes.
And
you're going to get Liam. Think about it. You're going to get Liam Hendricks back. And I don't know what his workload is going to look like to start. I really don't. But he's going to be part of the equation again. And if Joe Kelly is doing what he's doing and Kendall Graveman's doing what he's doing, all of a sudden the back end of that bullpen is looking pretty damn scary.
Well, that's what you need, because the starting pitching, whether they're good or bad, they don't go deep.
No, they don't.
Was one knock. On paper, you were like, okay, on paper, this rotation could be decent, but they are not going to go deep, and you are going to have to rely on that bullpen. And the bullpen coming, for the most part, up until the last couple weeks was a little rough. I mean, you look at Aaron Bummer, who was a guy that you were kind of relying on to be good. He's got a 8.5 ERA. But the White Sox. The White Sox are, they're starting to turn things around, and hopefully when Eloy comes back, he can get back in the swing of things. They just picked up Clint Frazier for reasons, but he's there. Tim Anderson, though, not playing so well.
No, and I wonder if he's still ailing.
I think it was the right move to move him down the batting order.
Yes.
Because him not playing well and then leading off,
that hurts you.
That hurts you bad. They moved Benintendi up there, and that's looking like the right move.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Berger still hitting really well.
The big thing here, I think, is the fact that Luis Robert looks like the all-star type guy that we've been wanting to see.
Yeah. And Yoan Moncada is playing like he did pre-COVID.
He is his presence has made a difference. That's why I'm not sure this is just some fluky little run. I think that it hurt them greatly that they didn't have him during that 10-game losing streak. And again, I'm not saying it's like, oh, everything's fixed, there's no problems. I'm just saying it makes a big difference.
I mean, you're going to need Giolito to play well outside of against Kansas City. He's going to have to pitch well. You're relying on him. Lance Lynn's going to have to be consistent. I mean, Kopech just ran through the Royals the other day.
Probably his best start of his career, I'd say.
Oh, I mean, easily. I mean, he looked great. Cease didn't look so hot against Cleveland.
But it wasn't awful.
No, but he's your ace. you're relying on him. So your rotation, Kopech been up and down. Clevenger's been up and down. Lance Lynn has been wildly up and down. Giolito's been wildly up and down. Cease has had some, less than stellar moments, but he's been good. You need to have more consistency with your starting pitching. And
Absolutely.
the hitting's got to stay. So you're right. This bullpen could solve itself. But this team dug themselves in a hole, and they're going to have to dig themselves out. It's a bad division, but they still have to dig themselves out of that hole that they dug themselves in.
Right. And so that's going to require you. That makes every game so much bigger. And that's why I think it was frustrating for a lot of Sox fans when they kind of more or less threw in the towel in that Cleveland finale, a game they could have easily won, but kind of it went by the boards.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part is you've got to compete in all these games because you know what? Despite there being 162 games, like in the NFL, they're all desperately important because there's 17 games.
Right.
MLB, sometimes you throw it away and be like, there's 162 of these. We'll fight another day. But look how important one game comes at the end of the season. It's, these teams are, for the most part, pretty evenly matched. You take out the handful of very top teams and the couple of the very bottom teams, and the rest of the teams are pretty evenly matched. And it's not that much difference between, your team going, winning 77 games and winning 85 games over a stretch of 162 games. It's not that much of a difference to make that happen. And that's why it's important. You can't just give these games away.
Right, exactly. Every game becomes so much more important now.
Because, you're not terribly far behind the Twins, 6.5 games right now. But you have to leapfrog the Guardians, the Tigers, and the Twins to get back into first place.
Which you can do over this next week.
Yeah, you're not playing the Twins.
You can do that.
You can.
I'm not talking about the Twins. I'm talking about the Guardians and the Tigers.
Yeah, you sweep the Guardians, you take them over. If you win that series against the Tigers at that point and the Guardians, you probably take over the Tigers too. So yeah, totally doable. You just got to go ahead and do it because I don't think the wild card comes out of the AL Central.
No, it's division or nothing for the Sox, most likely.
Because the Astros are a team that beat your ass and they're playing well, and they're a couple of games behind the Rangers. Angels are actually playing pretty well. The Mariners are a very, very good team that's not playing so well, but they're still significantly better than you. And then you got the AL East, which,
you have 4 teams in there.
Yeah.
Not including the division leader.
You've got, you have the division leader and then 4 teams competing for that wild card.
Exactly.
The Yankees are playing great baseball and they're 5.5 games out of first place.
Yeah, it's very lopsided when it comes to the way these divisions are laid out.
The wild card standings, if you're the White Sox, right now it is Baltimore, New York, Houston. Then the order after that is Boston, Toronto, Angels, Seattle, Detroit, Cleveland, White Sox.
Yeah, for a wild card, that's like way too many teams to leapfrog.
Yeah, you're literally only ahead of the Royals and Oakland, who are 2 of the worst teams that you could possibly imagine.
See, isn't that nuts? Like, this is what is really going good for the White Sox. So you're saying that the White Sox still have the 3rd worst record, right, in the AL?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yet winning the division is not out of question right now.
Well, because the Twins, Twins are first place, and they would be like 3 games out of the wild card.
Yeah, that is a mediocre team if I've seen one.
Yeah, absolutely.
They should be better, though. That's the thing. Like, the Twins should be 4 or 5 games better than they are. And I don't know if that's going to come to light at some point, but they're just, I don't buy that team. The past few years, I've never bought that team. If they made more of an effort to put together things in their lineup, then that could be a big difference of giving the White Sox a chance or not. Right now, the White Sox have a chance, despite being the 3rd worst team in the AL.
3rd worst team in baseball.
It's crazy. So
yeah, they would be the worst team in the National League.
So my message to the White Sox is you have the ultimate gift. Take advantage of it.
Yeah. So you're the White Sox. So you're like, okay, we outlined the positives here. Hitting is looking good. Well, starting to look good, at least the top of the order. Bottom of the order is another hot mess. And I think you need Tim Anderson to play better to lift
Absolutely.
that bottom. But
agreed.
The top of the order looking good. Starting pitching, potential to look good, has been pretty good as of late.
It's getting better.
Bullpen has a chance soon to be very good. And you're like, okay, those are the good things. The bad things are that we're just days away from June and you're 10 games under 500. You're the worst team, or the 3rd worst team in baseball. So there's a lot of things to reconcile here. And that's the part, we've been preaching for the last however many weeks is, you had the saying, but it was reiterated is, you don't win a division in April, but you can lose it. And that's kind of what the White Sox have been doing in April and May is digging themselves in a hole. If they could have pulled out some of these games and,
you could be only 3 back.
Yeah, you can easily identify 3 games where dumb stuff happened or one bad inning cost them a game, one bad pitching spot from the bullpen. And you're like, okay, let's do a 3-game swing here. They're instead of 19 and 29, they're 22 and 26. And that suddenly has them at 22 and 26, has them in 2nd place in the division. So, it's frustrating to be like, hey, that's the spot we're in. We're a good team that's playing bad. And Pedro Grifal's got a lot of work to, because that's on him to make this team, give him that TW.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a big hole to dig out of, and every game means something. So if you truly are the contenders that you think you are, got to go out and consistently play like it.
Yeah. And Liam Hendricks has got to be coming up soon, coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, they were talking potentially like, this weekend. I heard Steve Stone say that he was almost guaranteed by next weekend. So any day now we should be seeing Liam Hendricks.
Yeah.
And Mike Clevenger apparently has wrist soreness. So I don't know where they go with him if he has to miss a start.
Yeah, they might have to bullpen day that one.
Yeah, so that's not good. Yeah, but the White Sox are definitely playing a lot better. It just sucks to have dug themselves in this big of a hole.
Absolutely. They had no doubt about that.
And, the way that they're the way that their schedule is lined up, it's given you an out. It's given you a chance to come back. And I'm not going to anoint them by any stretch. And, giving props to a team that's 10 games under 500 in May, is enough. They're going to have to earn any more praise, but they've got the opportunity here with the Tigers and the Guardians to really bounce back and suddenly make this division a lot more competitive.
Yeah. Well said.
There's really nothing Bears going on. This is the dead season.
Yeah, pretty dead. Right now we're just posting highlights of new and old Bears stuff on Twitter. That's about the extent of it.
Yeah, Twitter is people arguing with other teams' fans about whether Justin Fields can play well. And,
yeah.
We do have Ryan Poles pretty much said that they're looking to trade for a veteran edge rusher. And he's pretty, he pretty much says what's going to happen. He's very transparent. It doesn't always seem transparent. It's weird. It's like he says what's going to happen, but he doesn't, it just seems like it's cryptic. And then when it happens, you're like, no, he really just fucking said we're going to do this. And then he does it. And then you're like, how did we get mesmerized? I think it's so many years of GMs with double speak that when one is honest, that you looking at the angles of it, it's like trying to decipher, Taylor Swift Easter eggs. and you have, but Ryan Poles just really tells you. So I'm I anticipate it sounds like he doesn't like any of the free agent edge rushers. Not to say he won't sign one of them, but it sounds like he's trying to go the trade route instead. So we'll see how that plays out. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, Chase Young. If you had a healthy Chase Young, or you could guarantee his health, I would take that risk any day of the week, because that guy, when he's healthy, is a stud. He hasn't been healthy. And are you going to trade assets and have to pay the guy a lot of money going forward?
That's a hefty price.
Because if you bring him over, I think this is his last year of contract. So you either have to blindly pay him, or if he plays really well, you're going to have to pay him market money after you just made a trade after one season.
Right.
I'm a little hesitant to do that. Unless he's willing to sign a incentive laden contract extension, which I don't think he'll do. So I don't think that's the guy, but I'm looking towards before training camp opens. So we probably got another couple weeks max before they'll trade, and he might just be waiting to see if anybody gets cut, because the June 1st cuts are coming up in short order. What are we like, a week and a half, 2 weeks?
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense, right? Like, you don't want to jump the gun.
Yeah. So you might see a surprise cut somewhere. I mean, who knows? But I mean, if a Khalil Mack gets cut, maybe you bring him back as, he's better than what you had, and he's a hometown favorite already. Who knows? Maybe that's what's holding this up. But I anticipate by the time training camp opens in July that you'll have another edge rusher in here.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Let's see. Then Bulls. It's been frustrating watching some of the NBA finals, and I know a lot of people have thoughts about when we had Jimmy Butler. And the thing is, when we had Jimmy Butler that the Bulls had is not the same Jimmy Butler that the Heat have. And I mean, he's technically is the same guy, just not the same player. And the fact is, you know, we're Jimmy Butler had to go through a process. He had to leave the Bulls. He had to leave the Timberwolves. He had to leave the 76ers to finally get to a team that could figure him out and give him the support system he needed to become the Jimmy Butler that he is.
Well, and I mean, one of the things that really speaks to what the Bulls have been through over the past decade plus is they couldn't build the right team around him, even if they still had him. That's what's frustrating. It's look what happens when other guys leave and they actually fit into systems that are fit to their style of play. Look at Lauri Markkanen. Look what remember when Markkanen a 3-point shooter?
Yep.
When they tried to, they didn't have the right system for him, so he goes elsewhere and he thrives. It's not speaking to just getting rid of the player. It's speaking on everything as a whole, how you build your team, the culture you build, and just your philosophy, your coaching philosophy, the style of play. It's building a team around him. Yeah, at most, they built something mediocre. The Miami Heat right now have a chance to go to the finals from being an 8 seed. And they're in the playoffs every year. That franchise has gone from...
It speaks, sorry to interrupt you, it speaks volumes to the rosters and the culture that Pat Riley has put together and the coaching job that Eric Spoelstra has done. And there was a time that we all clowned Eric Spoelstra, but he's become a hell of a basketball coach.
Yes. He's honestly, you could argue he's the best coach in the league right now. At least the top 3.
And yeah, he's become a really good basketball coach. And between Riley and Spoelstra, the structure is there. And you bring in a guy with Jimmy Butler's talents, make him the focal point, and your team is playing really well. You need, the Bulls lacked that structure in place. And, I really think Jimmy Butler had to take inventory of his life because was a good basketball player with the Bulls. Just, other stuff got in the way. Had difficulties in Minnesota, difficulties in Philadelphia, and finally settled in Miami and has figured himself out. But, part of that was Jimmy figuring his things out and the structure and organization that he came to. It was a match made in heaven. And the Bulls need to figure out how to become that type of organization. And I don't know. They're really at a crossroads right now. And I'm hearing rumors that they're willing to run this back out and hope that Lonzo comes back healthy. And I just want to scream into my pillow because that just seems like the dumbest route.
But tell me this. Would you be surprised? Honest to God, would you be surprised?
Not exactly. At all. I mean, honestly, I think you need to sort of scrap what you have and not scrap, but you need to go down, not to the foundation, but to the studs. I think it might be time to part ways with Billy. I think it's probably time to, at best, sign and trade your center. And I think DeMar, you have to trade him and get what you can get. And because you don't have any draft picks. As of right now, you don't have a first rounder. You don't have a second rounder. You don't have any draft picks. You don't have any cap space if you sign the players, re-sign your players. I think you go down to Zach and take away those other alphas and you let some of your young players prove their merit and give them room to grow. And it might suck. It might not work, but I think that's your best option.
I think so too. I think so too. I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, there is so little you can do more with what you have now. You keep adding on to something that's deteriorating, and relying on Lonzo Ball coming back. I mean, those chances are not great. Let's be real. They are not great. Even if he does come back, he's not going to be the same player. I hate that for him. I love Lonzo Ball, but what is it? 3 major knee surgeries now?
Yeah, I'm not
It's
relying on him.
tough.
But I think you have to pray that Pat Williams finally evolves, and you don't want him to do it elsewhere. I think you got to figure it out, and you trial by fire. Make him be the man. I don't think you're going to get anything worth for Zach. Not saying he's bad. I'm just saying I don't think teams are going to value him the way you need them to build. So I think you keep Zach, you move DeMar because he's got 1 year left on his deal. And Vooch, you hope you could sign and trade. But
Good luck.
Otherwise, I think you just let him walk. I don't think you re-sign Vooch. I think you just got to build with your youth, and it's going to suck because I don't think Dalen Terry is a guy.
I don't think they think he's a guy.
I don't think so either. Pat Williams might be a guy. He's shown flashes at times. I think you've got to just let him put his big boy pants on and go out there and play. And you don't want to figure out he can play when he's with another team. You've had enough of that.
Yeah, and listen, like I like Pat Williams. He's not going to be a guy that you're going to see as a top 3 player on a championship team.
He's 21 years old. That's the thing. I mean, he's 2 years younger than Io.
Which is true.
That's the thing, is he's so young. I mean, he's got another couple years before he's at his peak, prime. He's not even in his prime yet. He's been in the league a couple seasons. That's the benefit / difficulty of drafting somebody so young, is you've got to figure out their contract situation, their next contract situation, before they've fully marinated. And that's kind of where you are with Pat Williams. And I think you've got to give him a little bit of trial by fire. Let him be the man. Don't make him let him take a back seat to other players. Force the hand, force him to be the guy. Zach will be the primary, so he doesn't have he's not without a lifeline, but make him try to be the guy. And at least if you suck, you figure out early on, okay, well, this was not a good number, 4 pick. And then you move on and you rebuild. You also hope the Trailblazers draft pick that they still owe us. That one, the rumors are that because they technically don't owe us, the pick that they owe us is getting their can kicked down the road to next year. But the rumors are that they're trying to build a team this year and use their extra picks to trade to build assets, but they can't trade that. They can't trade. They're sort of locked in some of their picks because they potentially belong to the Bulls. So they may try to make a trade that negates that other trade and give the Bulls a pick this year, which would probably be a late first rounder. Better than nothing, but it's a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Maybe Maybe you get a Jokic. Wasn't he a second round pick?
I think so. I think you could pray for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of hope, but there's been some really good second round picks in the NBA. Manu Ginobili was a second round pick. Marc Gasol, Dennis Rodman, Willis Reed, Draymond Green, Nikola Jokic, Gilbert Arenas, Alex English.
All a bunch of what ifs.
Doc Rivers, Mark Price, Mo Cheeks, Tony Kukoc, Jeff Hornacek. So at least a lottery ticket.
Isn't this whole thing a lottery ticket? Just the whole existence of the Bulls, isn't it just one big lottery ticket?
I mean, yeah, but the Bulls are really at a crossroads, and I think you either got to add to this team to add to this roster or kind of subtract from this roster. And I think running it back as is a fool's mistake, because you've done that how many years now? And it's going
to put you further deep into purgatory if you weren't already in the most deep depths of it.
And I know what the logic is going to be if they do run it back. Sorry, I'm yawning here. If the logic is going to be, well, when we had a real point guard in Patrick Beverley, we played good enough basketball where we beat the Lakers, we beat the Heat, we beat these teams we beat the Celtics, we beat these teams that are in the semifinals. Why can't we, with a real point guard, do this over a whole season and make the playoffs? And I think the fallacy is applying a short-term result to a long-term a long-term issue. And beating the team in the regular season is different than beating them in a series in the playoffs.
Yep.
That's
look at the Denver Nuggets. The Bulls clobbered them in one game, but look at what the Denver Nuggets are one win away from the finals.
Other people will be like, well, the Lakers were worse than the Bulls, and look where they are.
The Lakers have LeBron James.
Yeah, Lakers have one of the top 5 players of all time, and they have AD, who's very, very good. Like, they're not like, they have way more talent than the Bulls.
I mean, when on paper, in their primes, AD and LeBron are superstar players. You don't have superstars. You have all-star player in Zach LaVine at most, and you have a very good all-star, borderline MVP type player last year in DeMar DeRozan, but you're not on the level of LeBron James, even in his older years. Like, that's just a fact.
Yeah. A 38-year-old LeBron James is better than anybody on the Bulls roster. And that's not shit talking. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Because at 38 years old, the only difference is LeBron just can't do it for a whole game. He can't play 40 minutes the same way. But at any 5-minute stretch, he can be the most dominant player on pretty much any court.
Yeah.
And you saw that against Golden State. The Bulls don't have anybody like that. And a LeBron James can just hold it, turn it on for these stretches in the postseason. The Bulls don't have anybody like that. That's why I think it's a fallacy to run it out and try to do this again.
Yep, I agree.
I just, I saw one rumor that maybe the Bulls try to go after Ben Simmons to play that Lonzo Ball role. And in theory, at his best, Ben Simmons could make this team really good. But what are the odds that happens?
No.
Slim?
Just no. That would be so Bulls, but I don't even want that thought in my head.
I mean, that would be a Bulls move, but that would be amazing if the Bulls overpaid for 2 point guards that weren't going to play at all.
Yeah. It's bleak. It is bleak.
And the draft night's going to be stupid to watch because the Bulls won't do anything.
And I mean, we can't sit here and pretend like we thought that they were going to get lucky, right?
Yeah, I mean, I watched that draft lottery and I was like, maybe the Bulls win. Maybe. And I didn't think they were going to win. Like, that was too much to ask after we already won the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. But the trying to get Victor Wembanyama, that would be too much to ask. But I was like, if we could get a top 4, there's the first 8 picks in this draft. This is a top of this draft is pretty good. There's some good players in there. And I'm like, okay, if they get a top 4 pick, they get their first rounder this year, and they can at least get a guy that can help them. And so I'm like, all right, please. And then when they said number 11, and they posted the picture of the Magic, and I mistakenly thought that the Magic, their actual draft pick fell down. I was like, oh shit, like maybe. And then I saw that it was the Bulls pick that they owed to the Magic, and I was like, well, that was a bummer. And I felt bad because Big Dave did a live show and he was going crazy because they thought the same thing. And it was a weird how they posted that with, it should have been the Bulls pick and then transferred over rather than just automatically putting up the Magic logo. But
the
Bulls didn't win. The Bulls didn't win, and the Spurs are going to get Victor Wembanyama.
Hey, he's not in our division, though. I mean, I know the Pistons are a rival, but boy, did they get screwed.
I love it though.
I know you do. I have Pistons fan friends, and I do have to send some sympathy to them because that is rough. Like, just if we're taking the bias aside of fandom, like, that is rough. Could you imagine if that was the Bulls?
Oh yeah, I would have been pissed. I was sure they were going to get Victor Wembanyama. I mean, I was so sure. I was like, do I put some money on this? And I was like, that would just totally jinx it. And but when the Spurs got him, I was like, huh. I was shocked. That did not play out the way I thought it would.
Neither did I, but I mean, he's not going to be in the Bulls division, so.
The one nice thing about him being in the division would be you could see him more. I don't know how I so rarely watch a San Antonio Spurs game.
Right. Well, they'll be on TNT and national broadcasts a lot more again.
They will. But the Bulls didn't win the lottery. They did not get any luck in the draft situation, and they don't have any draft picks in this draft, and they don't have cap space really to sign anybody to help them out. I would be disappointed if they ran things back.
Yeah, me too. Disappointed but not surprised. Just get your puking stilts ready.
Get my puking sticks totally ready, because I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to wear them during the Blackhawks. I think the Bears are going to be a lot better than people think. So I got to wear them somewhere.
And now today's Sean Hopman will be our halftime entertainment. You just go out there, blah, 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 all over the court, and horrified mothers and their children are running for the exits. What the hell kind of a halftime is this? Blah, blah, blah.
Worst halftime show ever.
We were promised the Jesse White tumblers, and you bring us Sean Hopman on puking stilts? Boy, has this franchise really sunk low? Who the hell in the entertainment planning department? Who the hell approved this?
I saw this TikTok today that I was crying. I was laughing so hard. It had a kid sitting on his bed, crying, and his room is decorated in St. Louis Blues stuff. And then the caption is just the rest of the league. Oh, and they're playing Chelsea Dagger in the background. It said
I saw that one.
The rest of the league having to hear this stupid song every 5 minutes thanks to Gary Bettman giving Chicago Bedard.
Yeah, I saw that one.
That was a good one. I sent it to I have a friend who just hates he's like, I was giving him shit because he's got like 3 favorite teams, and like he's like, well, I grew up in New York, so I'm an Islanders fan, and I live in Florida, so I'm a Lightning fan, but I always just loved Detroit growing up. And I was like, why don't you just throw like the Penguins in there and like every other front runner team? And were you a big Kings fan too? I always give him shit for how many teams he's a fan of, but he hates the Blackhawks. And when they won Bedard, I just got a text from him that just said, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
So I sent
Where was he originally from? New York?
New York. So I just sent him back of the a clip of da, 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 da. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece. I got some stuff off my chest about the Cubs. We, reminisced about where we were when the Bulls didn't win the lottery, and that's really all I got.
Yeah. So I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That would grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down. I want to